And lightspeed bundles might be by far people's favourite methods of vastly accelerating large swathes of their roster in a very quick manner, but let's not forget about the lightspeed tokens that a lot of people will be starting to earn now in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. We've got a new set at the end of this episode track, and I want to talk to you just a little bit about which characters you should be choosing from those lightspeed tokens. Let's do this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the baby account right now, and as you can see, there are, 7 days and 5 hours left of this episode track, and I'm currently just under level 50. I am confident that I will be able to hit level 50 on the episode track today without any issues. Don't see that being a problem. Anybody that does hit level 50 is granted a free Bronzium Lightspeed token. Now, this Bronzium Lightspeed token is a one-use consumable that everybody can use. It will take one of the predetermined characters to level 85, gear 12, and 4 stars. It also levels up their abilities to level 4, but honestly, if you're struggling to hit level 4 on your abilities, you've got bigger issues, I think. Bigger issues, ladies and gentlemen. So this current one is for Imperial Remnants. Now, yours might not look exactly the same as what I have here, but it probably does because this account is smaller, and that's why I choose to use this. Now, if you also happen to have the episode pass, which I always recommend, it's probably the best recurring payment you can make in the entire game. $20 gives you 20 shards of 2 different brand new marquees, a bunch of Omicron mats, a bunch of Kyrotech, late game gear, signal data, relic mats, all that good business. I mean, you get some droid brains. It's a really good purchase, as well as masses and masses of episode currency, sources of additional episode points, and of course, a better Lightspeed token. Now, the Chromium Lightspeed token is the same as the Bronzium in most respects. It's the same character pool, but instead of it just being a Gear 12, was it? Gear 12 character? Yeah. Instead of being a 4-star Gear 12 character, you get a 5-star Relic 1 tier character. So it saves you additional gear, Kyrotech, most importantly, and it gets you 1 relic level. Now, granted, 1 relic level is not a big deal, but it still saves you a little bit of resources. So what I would recommend is we don't necessarily need to look at these two things and make a distinction about, oh, well, you should really be using your Chromium Lightspeed token on this one, and you should really use your Bronzium one on this one. Most of them are going to apply to the same character, so I'm not really going to make that distinction. Just try to make that decision based on what's most important for you. Let me explain my thought process when it comes down to how should you make this decision. It's a couple of things. First of all, I will always look at where is the source of the character farmed from. So is it a cantina? Is it hard node farm? How much energy is it? Is it like a 20 node dark side hard farm? Or is it from like a 8 energy cantina farm? Those are very different because it means that the value of the shards that you are getting are very different. Now, by default, any of the characters that come here should be on the accelerated path. So that means essentially whenever you try to get their shards, it's going to be dropping double. You'll be getting 2 shards for each character. You can see here, OG Moff Gideon, for example, he's dropping 2 shards, 12 energy, light side 2D. When you compare that to, oh gosh, it's gone all the way out. That's very inconvenient. So say if you were to compare that to, let's just say Captain Enoch, right? So Captain Enoch, he is light side 8C. So technically speaking, this is a harder energy node to be farming because it costs more energy every day. So getting his character shards would be better, technically speaking, because you're saving more energy overall. Okay, the other aspect that I'm looking at when it comes to what characters I'm choosing is you also have to consider, are they newer or older characters? And the reason I ask that is because newer characters have a tendency to require more Kyrotech, which is a bigger gear blocker, essentially. It's a bigger bottleneck in the game, more expense to use. So if a character has more Kyrotech than the other, then it is going to be more valuable to you to get the character with the higher amount of Kyrotech that's required, because it will save you in the long run, even if you're not going to use the character. And finally, the last bit that I look at is this character required for something in the journey guide? A galactic legend, a legendary unlock, something like that, or is it a requirement for something like an assault battle? those make additional values or areas in the game in which you can draw additional value just from using these tokens there. So let's break this down, shall we? So let's start breaking this down character by character. We'll start off in the top left with Captain Enoch. Now, Captain Enoch requires 250 of the Kyrotech shock prods and 150 of the computers. He's also a requirement for GL Ahsoka Tano, and he does get used in the assault battle Peridia Patrol. Overall, a pretty solid choice in terms of a candidate for a lightspeed token. Now, the only downside I would say about Captain Enoch is he's not great in his leadership. He has a little bit of use, but not massively so. I would say that either characters out of either Death Trooper Peridia or Night Trooper basically do everything that he does, just a little bit better, and have a little bit more flexibility as they can be used in other teams as well, such as Night Sisters. So, speaking of Death Trooper Peridia and Night Trooper, they too are requirements for GL Ahsoka Tano, and they require the same amount of Kyrotech investment of the same types. All three of these characters are required for Peridia Patrol, which generally speaking compared to other assault battles apart from Duel of the Fates is one of the better and more valuable assault battles to be investing in. I would say at this face value, Night Trooper or Death Trooper Peridia are your top two choices, with Captain Enoch probably coming in third. Let's talk about some of the other units then. Dark Trooper is a fantastic Imperial Trooper in general. Yes, he can go in an Imperial Remnant team, but realistically, he's better served as an Imperial Trooper, has some flexibility. Very, very powerful. He is required to have 250 Kyrotech shock prods and 150 of the computers, the same amount as the others, and technically speaking, because he is an Empire unit, he can be used to unlock R2-D2, but he's not what I would call a hard requirement. A hard requirement is when you have a designated, you must use this unit in order to unlock this character. For example, you need to have, let's say, Jedi Knight Luke to unlock Jedi Master Luke. Dark Trooper is not a hard requirement for a farm, but he can be used to unlock R2-D2. I will also say that R2-D2 is a very, very easy legendary to unlock, so it shouldn't really come into play when thinking about unlocking this character. That's why I've placed this slightly to the left. He is also used in 2 assault battles, some of the older ones there. They do bring value though, and you will need to make additional investments in other areas of your roster in order to fully gain the benefit of having this as an assault battle character. That being said, still a very, very useful character to invest in. Moving on then, we're going to take a look at Scout Trooper. Now, Scout Trooper is super valuable, really good in quite a few teams. Imperial Remnant and multiple Imperial Trooper teams, in fact. Can be used in a standard Imp Trooper team, can be used in an Iden Versio Imp Trooper team to protect against Wampa teams, or to just give it some additional welly. Very good in Conquest, thanks to a number of good debuffs like AoE staggers, and just overall a very, very good unit. Now, Scout Trooper, she is also a requirement, a hard requirement, for Galactic Legend Leia Organa, who is one of the best Galactic Legends. I would argue, in fact, the best Galactic Legend to invest in overall if it wasn't for Smuggler's Run 2 for Jabba the Hutt. She's just a very, very powerful Galactic Legend overall. So Scout Trooper, a really solid choice here. Same amount of Kyrotech as the others so far, in the same places, can be used for R2-D2, but again, that's not a big deal. But more importantly, is a hard requirement for Galactic Legend Leia Organa. Also, as an Imperial Trooper, she can be used in some assault battles. Moving on to Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon's era has kind of disappeared a little bit. He is still a very powerful unit, requires a little less Kyrotech overall, and is an older unit. It's quite easy to farm just in general. Goes well into either a DTMG team, Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, or standard Imperial Trooper team. Has some useful debuffs to reduce incoming damage and stuff like that with Demoralized, and can be used in assault battles. Overall, a pretty solid choice, but certainly not one I would pick as a first choice. Any of the ones that come before it are probably better. Death Trooper next then. Death Trooper is one of the characters that only requires Kyrotech to take to relic levels, so you'd only be saving yourself 100 Kyrotech if you are using a Chromium Lightspeed token. Also, Empire unit can be used for R2-D2 and can be used in assault battles for Imperial Troopers. Overall, old character, easy to gear, not really a consideration in my opinion unless you have no other choices. And finally, we've got the OG Stormtrooper. Almost the exact same story as Death Trooper, but I would argue that Stormtrooper is just objectively a worse character to invest in. Doesn't really get a whole lot of use, does the OG Stormtrooper. So overall, when I look at these sorts of things and I wonder where I might place that investment, I would probably place a higher level of importance on the characters for the Peridia Patrol, most notably because that benefit to Peridia Patrol is kind of huge. There's nothing bad about that, and they're used for GL Ahsoka Tano, and they have a significant amount of Chirotech. If it wasn't for those three, I would probably say Scout Trooper is your best bet, because Scout Trooper does go towards General Leia Organa and is overall a very, very good unit. After that, maybe consider Dark Trooper or Moff Gideon. Do not really go after Death Trooper or Stormtrooper unless you absolutely have to. And that would be it, really. I think I'm probably going to be putting mine into either Night Trooper or Death Trooper Peridia just to try and get them up on my alt account. My main account has them all reliced out already, so no considerations there for me. But overall, hopefully this helps you make a decision on where you should potentially be using your Lightspeed token. I'll make sure to do another one for these when they drop for the next era. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you can hit that like button and subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.